Today, I'm going to be reading The Wealth of Nations Reading Group questions numbers 1 through 5 from Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations. Question number 1. Discuss contemporary economics in light of some of the key notions elaborated by Smith. My answer? Adam Smith laid out what would become known as the mercantile system that people who call themselves merchants go by. America was not just for the multiplication of fortune for seekers abroad. No, the original flock adventured across the ocean because they had the mettle to do so, and because religious freedom to practice European-styled Christianity and be left alone by the Crown of England and its church was in favor among the Protestants. There are parts in Adam Smith's magnum opus that some might say is proto-libertarian. Adam Smith is often cited by Karl Marx, I think, but I haven't read Marx because I judge a tree by its fruits. There are now other schools of economics, like Hayek's Chicago School of Economics, which asserts that no man or class of men are suitable or talented enough to exert centralized control of managerial economics, not even by election or merit. Adam Smith lays out how rural areas and urban areas depend on each other for certain goods, services, and functions. Towns have artisans that craft that which the farmer uses, weapons that soldiers use, and luxuries for export or domestic recreation. Farms receive the aforesaid items while supplying food and chattel to the towns. Adam Smith says that in the event of a famine, all the products adorning the farmer's abode that was originally constructed in the neighboring metropolis, such goods can neither feed the former nor the latter. This means that in dire circumstances, and in a sense always, the farmer and husbandman is of more value to society than the artisan or craftsman. This and many more does Adam Smith attend to. Question number 2. Adam Smith once famously said, quote, "It is not from the benevolence of the brewer or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. We address ourselves not to their humanity, but to their self-love." What does Smith mean by self-love or self-interest? My answer? What I think Smith might mean by the above quote is that the function of a vocation is tied to the survival of whomever occupies said vocation. Self-interest and self-love are topics I can go on and on about because I've read, both long ago and somewhat recently, Max Stirner's The Ego and Its Own. One could even say that self-interest and self-love are spooks, or phantasms of the imagination. But I digress. Thomas Hobbes, I believe, said that a man does not do any action that he himself finds pernicious to his will, except that his will is itself misguided. I think there are men who choose to do evil and to make crime their job, so to speak. As for me, I slack. Slack is a resource. You can't be a Renaissance man without slack, and being selfish all the time makes one tense. Question number 3. The Wealth of Nations is an explanation of complex social relations on the basis of a few principles, but also a work which provided practical prescriptions for the problems of the day. Discuss these concepts of Smith's work, analytical and prescriptive or historical. What is their relation? Is the one necessary for an appreciation of the other? And my answer? I don't really know what distinction can be made among these 3 categories: analytical, historical, and prescriptive. For example, he analyzes the 13 colonies of the New World of America and how they don't produce nearly as many silver mines / exports as the Spanish colonies in South America. It's an analysis of what was to him contemporary events. In other words, recent events. Where is the line drawn between analytical or historical in that context? One could not exist without the other. As far as being prescriptive, the Founding Fathers were inspired by Adam Smith's ideas, so that played a key role in forming the economic model for our ancestors. Question number 4. In his introduction to this volume, Robert Reich notes that The Wealth of Nations, quote, is everlastingly about human beings, their capacities and incentives to be productive, their overall well-being, and the connection between connectivity and well-being. How does this statement, taken as a point of departure, shed light on Smith's book and its significance? My answer to this, I thought this was an interesting question. I have read Wealth of Nations in its entirety. Now, I'm sure Robert Reich is a fine fellow. I keep losing my place, my bad. But the introduction to any work, unless written by the author themselves, are with little regard the opinions of scholars. In other words, secondary sources. I honestly don't care what Robert Reich has to say, and I will not pretend what he said or what he wrote mattered more than what Adam Smith wrote. I will not answer such a patronizing question that was probably written by Robert Reich himself. So, question number 5. Adam Smith considered himself a moral philosopher. How does looking at him in this way, as someone fundamentally concerned with questions of ethics, change your understanding or appreciation of his work? And my answer to this final question was, Adam Smith was possibly examining the human race as worker bees in a bee colony. Early in his work, he quoted a poet, or moral philosopher, perhaps, who rhymed about bees operating like people in a society. His stanzas may have inspired the earliest analyses Smith wrote down, and so it seems fit that he wanted to be a moral philosopher, since Adam Smith is attempting to mentally transfer the morality of the beehive onto the human hive of civilization. Read Mandeville's Fable of the Bees, which admittedly yours truly has yet to read. Conclusion. Skip Karl Marx and jump straight into Adam Smith. His volume, Wealth of Nations, is such a long and dense book that a talented programmer could create several economic simulations or tycoon-styled video games. Surprisingly enough, Marx's theory is just Carthage trying to wrest control of the money supply out of the noble Latium or Latini tribe. Adam Smith proves that Europeans are better at managing their own money than Jews, and as such we no longer need the Jews' services. And in fact, we never have! Smith tells you everything you need to know about who really runs America at this point, and it's not Americans. Don't let them siphon your birthright from you, as promised by Aryan God. Thank you, and have a fantastic night or day, depending on when this video reaches you. This has been Paladin Anon, signing off.